So today, I'm going to teach you 5 tips and tricks for the new map Sunset so that you can actually win on this map. And the first step here is to do with post plants, particularly on this A site, because where do we plant the spike on this A site? Well, there's 2 safe spots, right? One is behind this box, just here, and this box cannot be spammed by anything, so that's good. And the other one is in this corner here as well, which is a nice safe plant where, again, this can be spammed, but this part of the wall cannot be spammed. The problem is with those 2 spots is that they have problems in the post plant, right? If we've planted the spike behind that box and someone taps the spike, you're going to have to come sprinting all the way around here to see if they're there, right? The same is going to be true from any other angle where you're going to have to come running all the way around, right? This is not quite the case for this plant. This one's a bit better where you can see the spike from here, and that's quite nice. But again, if you are coming from this direction, you're going to have to get all the way out here. And if you're coming from CT, I mean, just good luck, basically. You're in a lot of trouble. So basically, the point is the main plant spots on this A site aren't great, which needs to affect that if you are planting there, you probably need to be more aggressive in your post plant than you normally would be. But if you can, you need to have the wherewithal to realize when can you actually plant safe. Or if you're playing an agent like Harbor, right, can you use your cove to get the spike down in a much more open space to just make this post plant a bit easier. Now, I was actually looking at this site and thinking, where would you want to plant the spike, right? Like, out here maybe isn't too bad, but probably the most open spot is actually in this corner here. So if you are playing like a Harbor, planting right as basically as in the corner as you possibly can, I would arguably say planting it towards like furthest away that you can, maybe even on the stairs. Give them a little semicircle there where they can't defuse from this side, because you can see the semicircle there is only on that side. And now this one, you know, is open to this, right? It will be open to CT players as well, right? If someone has come back here, nice and open out there, and obviously anyone coming across here, this is very much in the open for them as well. So if you can, you know, we want to be planting the spike in a place like this, because this A post plant in general is very, very tricky, but it gets even more tricky when we've planted the spike in a position where, you know, we're panicking if they ever tap the spike. Speaking of this A post plant, this is a trick for Raze or Omen or Jet or maybe even Chamber, I guess, is to come up here. I think that this, on top of this box, is a very crucial angle to play if you have any of those agents in an A post plant. As I said, this A post plant is weird. There's not a lot of like space that like to play in an A post plant. That, you know, the site is pretty narrow itself. It's kind of a bit tricky a lot of the time, but this angle here is very good. Again, this, you're not going to get spammed up here. You'll be fine. And you can get on this angle and be on a little tricky angle there, but also tuck yourself in and look this way as well if you want, right? And from all the way up here, they're going to have to be way out here to actually see you. And the same is true even if you're looking this way, right? They're going to have to be all the way out on site. And as long as your teammates are like, you know, breathing, functional human beings, hopefully they're helping you out here, you know, to protect you from whichever way you're not looking. But this is a very important angle in this A post plant, because there isn't a lot of great angles in this one, but this is probably like your premier angle where you're on an off angle and you can look both directions and just be a bit of a nuisance for the retakers. Now, the next tip here is going to be a bit more of a general one, but that is buying an op on the attack side. And the reason for that is because where the barriers are located on this map, there are a lot of fights that happen very early in the round, right? I'm sure many of you have come out here in mid and come around this corner, and there's literally defenders like, you know, already out in mid. They're already like out here, right? And that's actually something that commonly will happen on this map, right? The fights can happen very, very early on. And that's the thing. That's the whole point of this tip, right? Is that on this map, a lot of the time you won't be doing 5v5 execs, right? People will be getting kills early on in rounds, and the op is here to help you, even on attack side on this map. And it will be a bit of a surprise to people. And I know some people are a bit, you know, cautious about buying the op on attack. But, you know, for fights out here in mid, they can be very, very advantageous. And as I said, there's not going to be a lot of like defenders just purely defending the sites. There's going to be fights in here. There's going to be fights in mid. There's going to be fights in B main. And an op in all 3 of those areas on attack side is going to help you, right? If you can get an op down here, find that kill, that's a massive advantage. So buy an op on attack actually quite regularly, because I think it will help quite a lot. Okay, the next tip here is about smoking the back of B site, because normally you would look at a smoke on this back B site and you'd probably do something like this, right? Where the smoke, you don't want to smoke that like blooms too far out, because if you have a smoke that blooms too far out, that means that your opponents could, you know, come out of this side of the smoke, or they could come out of this side of the smoke, and it just makes it harder to defend in general, right? And that's normally how smokes go for pretty much every single map, everywhere basically. However, there is a problem here on the back B site, and let me explain. So if I do a smoke that you might think like, yeah, that looks like a good smoke, right? Something like this, where the smoke, you know, isn't blooming out there. They're going to have to come out on the choke point itself, right? And there's basically, you know, they're going to have to come out here. There's no little bloom there for them to use. Well, the problem is the defenders can come up here and see over it, right? And see both sides, actually. And that's a big problem. And this is Astra smokes as well, which are bigger than Omen and Brim smokes. So keep that in mind. So when you are smoking this back B site, this is a bit of a problem. And so what I would say is what you want to do is just bring your smoke in slightly towards the box, basically, is what I would say. You want to just bring the smoke in towards the box a bit more, just to make it a bit harder for them to actually see these angles, right? Just to make it a bit more tricky for them so they can't actually see it. The smoke is still doing much the same thing, right? It's still, you know, a decent bloom there. That's not being a problem. But if you do miss this and go for kind of one in the middle here, as I said, they will be able to see over this, right? They will be able to just look here and just use this angle to basically abuse you for putting down a bad smoke. So just keep that in mind. And if you are a defender, keep the inverse in mind, right? Probably a lot of people will be missing the smoke, particularly early on, you know, particularly with Omen or Brim, definitely. So use this angle, right? This is a very good angle to potentially use if you feel like, you know, they are coming onto the B site, and let's say I'm defending B here, and oh, yep, they're coming to me. You know, maybe getting up on here, you know, if we're playing for some kind of retake is actually quite nice, because you will be able to find kills as people flood in onto the back side. And then sticking with smokes here for the final tip, we'll talk about one ways here over towards A, which can be very, very good. However, with Astra and Brim, I was really hoping that you could get a one-way on this ledge, but just watch. I can try and place a star there with Astra here, but look, it just comes down to the ground instead, right? You just can't quite do it. It just doesn't let you for some reason. I don't know why, right? Because it looks like, you know, it looks there like I'm kind of on it, but you can't do it. It just always comes down here. Now, you can do a one-way on this box, right? You can always do this, and that's quite a nice one-way. However, I don't love that one-way either, because the smokes take a little, stars take a little second to actually, before you can use them at the start of the round. The barrier starts back here, right? And so to get to this one-way, putting up the smoke, this is quite a long time, so you're gonna need some other way of controlling this before you actually go for anything like that. So keep that in mind, that you're probably gonna need some help to get this one way going anyway, be it with Astra or be it with Brim. But Omen does have more options, because of course Omen can put a one-way up on this ledge just here, and this one's quite nice. I don't quite know what that purple bloom is just there, maybe the Astra star that never was, but this one is quite nice, and you can defend it pretty well. And this works with Viper as well, where if you come to the right-hand side of the barrier here, as the defenders when it starts, once the barrier drops, just aim your crosshair, kind of see where this leaf like meets this little banister right here, kind of on the side of the building. Just put your crosshair there where that leaf kind of meets, and then just do a normal left-click throw, and your orb will land just in there for you, giving you a nice little one-way here as well. So those were just some quick tips for Sunset. Hopefully you'll find them useful and you can use them in your games. Don't forget to subscribe to the Acend channel for more videos like this and more of my face.
What do we do? Win! How do we do it? 5! 2 hours! Acend!